Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Barracks, the podcast where service ends but the story begins. Today we have our first civilian um, on the podcast, and it's Leela Bassi, who is an author, a expert in D&I, and a adventurer as well. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, if you want to just introduce yourself and what you do now, before we delve into your past a bit more.
Sure, thank you. So I am a keynote speaker. I am also a trainer. I do lots of, I guess that's what COVID has actually brought to me, where I was doing a lot of face-to-face speeches on stage. And COVID has actually changed the business a little bit in terms of delivering a lot of what I call training session online, as well as face-to-face, all around diversity and inclusion, which I'm sure we will have a chance to talk about during this podcast. But also, it's a chance for me to be able to teach a little bit in the classroom and help one another to try to really understand what there is beyond what we don't know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna. I don't think we're gonna have time to talk, um, to talk about everything really. Yeah. So if we start from where it all began, the beginning. So if you can tell me a little bit, about your early years and why you moved over from France to the UK, because a lot of us would probably rather be in France than the UK. So
I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting one, this one. So, just to tell you a little bit more, I was actually born in India. I was abandoned at birth. Therefore, I was adopted and raised in France. I moved to the UK at the age of 21-year-old, soon after I finished my studies. And although I actually studied English, speaking the language fluently wasn't easy at first. But if you think about it, that was a new country, a new language, new people, my first real job. But in some ways, that that move actually taught me resilience very early on. It taught me how I had to adapt really fast and to rely on instinct, if that makes sense, and really learn to navigate a world that often felt really unfamiliar. So if I look back, it was a defining moment that actually sort of planted the seeds for everything I would go on to do now.
yeah, a really tough start, and I'm sure we could probably spend delving into your past most of the podcast on just how hard it would have been moving as a little girl into France, which would be alien to you, uh, language and culture, and then moving over to afterwards something a bit more similar, I guess, UK and London. But yeah, definitely a tough start, which without a doubt will have given you resilience to do what you're doing today, and an amazing platform to use your voice without a doubt. Yeah, quite inspirational really to take that step so early, to move on into the UK at that age. Were you no regrets?
I think sometimes thinking about what you just said, I think sometimes you just do it because you don't really have the choice, and you just want a better life. And I think that's what brought me here. Really, I will never regret. I think that was my biggest move, the best thing I ever done in my entire life, because this is where my life has really started.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're not ex-military, but I think your moving over to the UK would probably resonate a lot with soldiers. So a lot of us join at our early age. We join up to the military at 17, 18, 19. not adults, but again, it's trying to better our lives. So that path's quite similar, really, to people in the military. Because we don't. Some people don't see an option, and that's why some people join the military. So yeah, it's interesting, that parallel, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and you knew each other back in the Windsor days. I was, I guess, your personal trainer with military workout, and I remember you coming and talking to me about this crazy Arctic expedition that you were going to do, and you had to be selected. And your Arctic expedition in 2015 was really a pivotal moment in your life, wasn't it? Um,
Yes.
so can you share how that experience shaped your perspective on life, and how it moved you in this direction?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'd love that. Yeah, thank you. So back in 2015, I was selected to join a team of 12 women on an Arctic expedition across Baffin Island. The aim was to challenge perception around diversity and inclusion, to sort of defy the statu quo, if you'd like, and to show what we actually were really capable, truly capable of. So for me, it was more than just an adventure, just going out there and doing something different. It was the first time someone had actually believed in me enough to say, yes, you can do this. Yes, you are enough. And I remember training for months, despite hating the cold. And then suddenly I was there, right? Trekking this 100K in temperature as low as minus 40 degrees. And one of the things that I remember so well is I was up there in those mountains, in that cold, the buff on, covered from head to toes, and I remember hearing my deceased father's voice in my head telling me what he always told me for all of those years when I was young: you can't do this. You will never be able to do this. And and at that moment, I remember doubting myself, thinking, maybe he's right. But I kept going. I kept going because I just knew that there was something stronger than me, and really that all of that resilience that I had built until then, I just knew that I had to prove him wrong. So that experience has really taught me that resilience isn't just about pushing through something. It's about facing those inner voices that you've got, and choosing to keep walking anyway, to keep proving yourself, no one else, but to keep proving yourself that you can do it if you really put your mind to it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with all of that. It's interesting when you speak to people who've done such amazing things, how they get themselves through it, because it's not the top of the iceberg that gets you there, is it? It's not waving the flag at the top of a mountain. It's
Yeah,
all the hardship before it, and
yeah,
I guess because you took the bad experiences maybe of your childhood, I think, and then use that as such a motivational tool, really, which is quite inspiring to be
yeah,
able to do that and turn it to such, good. And you would have inspired people by that journey, and I know you do quite regularly inspire people by talking about it. So after this amazing experience, you came back to Windsor, and you had quite a high profile corporate job that I can remember. And then you decided to take a massive step, and go it alone, and founded Above and Beyond Resilience. So um obviously we're kind of saying that was a motivation, but what else motivated you, to do
yeah.
that?
It's a really, really good question, actually, because I remember when I came back from the Arctic, everything had changed for me. And in fact, I remember just before I left, my boss at the time had told me, you will never be the same. And I didn't really know what she meant. I had never been on any big extreme things like that. But she was absolutely right. I remember a colleague of mine, when I first came back, said, but what do you really want to do with your life? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm here, I've got, a nice job here. The company just paid for this trip for us to go on to, I just want to stay here. I'm very happy to be an account manager. And by talking to her about it, it really made me realize that actually this really wasn't what I wanted to do at all. I realized that what I wanted was to help people to discover the strength that I had actually found in myself. I spent years working in corporate roles, but this was completely different. I started speaking, doing public speaking, helping others share their stories. And that's when I decided to create Above and Beyond Resilience, to really empower people to see that their past does not actually define us, right? What matters is how we can rise from this, how we can just take every single mistake, every single failures that we have over our life, and be able to be who we are today, make ourselves stronger. And as I always say, I always tend to say to my kids, I would never grow old enough to make all of the mistakes myself. And that's so true. I also learn from other people. And I think that's one of the best things that I ever learned in my life.
Yeah, it's such a strong message that really that you're resonating and talking about. And with everybody, since COVID, mental health has become a pandemic in itself, and that message of it's not your past that can define you. You can change the now, and it is a really strong message. That's a really brilliant message to get out there. Really, that we can change the narrative, can't we? I think you've touched upon it in what we spoke about, but you sort of say that challenges are won or lost in the mind. So what sort of mental tools do you either use for yourself, or you recognise and recommend to people, to get through those bad times?
It's quite a difficult one, isn't it? Because it's not about being unshakable, as they say, or unbreakable. It's really about learning how to come back to yourself, when life is trying to pull you off course. And I would say that some of the tools that have really helped me over the last few years, it's really been about reframing the mind. So this is really about shifting how you see things, instead of asking, oh, gosh, why is this happening to me? I try to ask, okay, what has that taught me? How can that teach me something? I remember when I was out in the Arctic, facing freezing winds and being absolutely exhausted in minus 40 degrees, sleeping on ice and all that. I realized that I could either focus on the pain or focus on the purpose. And that shift in mindset gave me that strength to keep going. So that's really, I think I would say that this is number one, is really about reframing the mind. But one of the things that I tend to talk about a lot is about control the controllable, because there is, and COVID really has taught us that, right? So much of life is outside of our hand, and I've learned to focus my energy on what I can actually control. So my attitude, my next step, how I can actually show up, especially when we have an unknown situation. And I think that's really where the power actually lives. One of the other things I could talk about is the self-talk. And I think noticing that inner critic and choosing a kind of voice is really important. I have to admit that this is still really hard for me. I often find it, especially as a keynote speaker, I find it a lot easier to support other people than support myself, really. I'm sure you probably find this as well, Gina. But resilience means that it's about learning to show up for yourself as well. So even on the days you don't feel like it, people see you on stage and they think, oh, wow, she's got it all figured out. But you know what? They don't actually know what it took to stand there. So that's really about that self-talk, is about this affirmation that, I can repeat to myself before coming on stage or before doing something. That it doesn't have to be big. Sometimes it's just that first step, just to come outside of your house or of your home after a tough day that you had or anything like that. So it's really that self-talk which is important. And if I could add one important things that I've really learned over the last 5 years, really, is those micro wins, because I used to really live in the what's next, in that kind of mode, always rushing ahead. But that mindset can make your life feel so dull, so flat sometimes, So I try to celebrate the small moments a lot more now, whether it's about finishing a hard conversation, showing up to something that really scares me, like doing a podcast, for instance. Taking a pause, really. Those small wins are what build that real momentum.
Yeah, I love all that. There's so many takeaways. We could be here for hours, but yeah, I love that. You're absolutely right. A lot of people don't. We can't control other people, right? So taking control of our own lives is the most important thing, and we're always dealing with humans, and we never know what they're going to do, because they're a crazy species. And I think, as you're saying, stepping out of your comfort zone, like you've done today, your first podcast, as though you're like handling it like a pro. Yeah,
I don't know about that.
oh no, and I love the micro wins as well, because we are too hard on ourselves. I'm a bit like you. I'm very critical of myself, and I need to be less. Yeah, we just need to be kind to ourselves as well as other people, I guess. Yeah, I love all of that. It's brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. So moving on to failures, then it's definitely an opportunity for growth, isn't it? So what would you say? This is a big one. Is your biggest failure, or one that you're going to admit on air? That is.
It's a really, really tricky one, this one. I guess I think I had so many failures that an hour of podcast probably wouldn't be enough, but there were really moments in my life where maybe I stayed too silent when I should have spoken up, especially in the workplace. I basically doubted myself so much that I shrank to actually fit in, especially in the corporate. So I thought failure really meant like losing status or losing face. But I learned that what I've learned over the years is that the real failure is not showing up, is not showing up fully, right? So since then, I've really tried to be different, to live differently, to use my voice, even if it shakes, even if this is not always what I want to say, even if I'm worried about what the other person is going to think. What kind of perception I am actually going to have. I've learned that it's important just to say who you are, and to speak in a room where I never had a space before. I decided that if you don't want to listen to it, then that's fine. But I'm still gonna want to say what I have to say because I was silent for too long. And I think this was really one of my biggest failure that I've learned from.
Yeah, in fact, finding that voice often takes us to go through, yeah, tragedy and
Yeah,
failure,
yeah,
and finding your purpose, which I think the Arctic sent you on that, that journey to find
yeah,
your voice and communicate it across the globe. You've
mm,
talked to America and around the world, really. So it's phenomenal, really. And yeah, just getting out and doing things out of your comfort zone is definitely
mm,
something to
mm,
learn from failure.
mm,
And I don't think you truly fail until you either don't learn something from that failure, or you
yeah,
give up on what
yeah,
you're trying to do, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah, really interesting. So your big thing is D&I,
yeah,
diversity and inclusion. You're big on that. I think we all should be big on that, but obviously it's kind of in the firing line at the moment, isn't it? Which
yeah,
is
yeah.
which is pretty sad. So what would you say to those leaders who are starting to move away from it, and why should they embrace diversity
Mm.
in their teams? We've spoke about it before, and your ideas on what it brings to the team and the
Mm,
company. Why is it
yeah.
still important and relevant today? Which it
Well,
is.
yeah, you see, I think the one of the thing I want to mention here is the importance that people tend to think that diversity is more of a trend, right? Is something that, oh, let's talk about diversity and inclusion because this is, a tick box sort of thing. But in fact, it isn't. It's not a trend. It's not a tick box exercise. It's actually the truth. Okay, and it's still really deeply needed, I would say. So in my work, building inclusive and psychologically safe cultures across some of the biggest industries, I have learned that belonging is not built in strategic, meetings alone. It's built in those everyday moments of leadership, right? So it's how we listen, how we include other people, no matter what they look like, no matter what background, what the culture, wherever they are from. So it's really about showing up with courage and also with humility. So the true leadership here, it means that it's about creating some environment where people actually feel seen, they feel heard, they feel valued. They're not just invited, right? They are genuinely included. I think it's Verna Meyer who said, so she's the VIP at Netflix, and she said, let me just try to get this one right. Just pop into my head now. Diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance. And LinkedIn went a little bit further with that by saying, and belonging is dancing as if no one is watching. And and this is what I tend to say all the time. It's about imagine when you can just come into a room and just be yourself, just not having to worry about what you're wearing, what you're saying. You are just like part of them all, basically part of that team. And for me, this is just so important. It's about genuinely being included. So the fight is not over. Okay, so yes, the representation still lags. Yeah, the bias still exists. The impact of exclusion is still deeply felt. Okay, but even if it's not always visible, we just have to keep at it, keep going, keep pushing, keep fighting, keep being determined. Because leaders want innovation, if they want that trust, if they want that loyalty, they must lead with that inclusion at the core, right? It's not optional. Is fundamental, basically.
Yeah. No, I love that quote you gave. That's just explains it in a nutshell, doesn't it? Also, I remember we were having a conversation at your house, and you were talking about how diversity and inclusion. If you have a team that's more diverse, you can come up with a more robust solution to the plan instead of everyone being from the same background, the same area. Even the north-south divide, if you like. We have different um, experiences throughout life, and I think that resonated with me. How it makes a stronger team, not a
It
weaker team.
does. It does. It does. I think one of the things that I tend to add here as well is it's so important when the leaders are actually on this board, on these interview panels. It's about who is part of that team already there. If we are all the same, if we all like doing the same thing, what kind of people are we actually going to employ? We are going to want to have, we're surely going to have a little bit of bias, aren't we? If instead in that panel of people you have someone from a different background, someone from a different language, someone from a different country, from different experience, expertise, anything like that, we are then going to recruit someone who is completely diverse. And that's what I really love, is about trying to go out there and learn something new, something that I don't know, because we never grow old enough to know all of these things, right? So it's really about meeting those people who are different from us. What can they bring us? What can we bring them?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and I think that's what people are missing, isn't it? Um, it's about it's just about becoming a stronger team, really.
Yeah, yeah,
We've all got different attributes, a bit like the little hike we're going to be doing at some point. We've all got
yeah.
different attributes, so I'm sure we'll talk about that. Yeah, yeah, really interesting. Um, yeah, so hopefully those leaders are listening, and can get back on board instead of taking a step backwards in time. Yeah, so can you do you we'll go on a different sort of thing. Have you got a story where kindness sort of had such an impact of you? We've done kind of the negative, so or someone where it made an impact on your life.
I, before I go on to a little story, I think I want to say how easy it is to be kind, at least in my eyes. In fact, at the dinner table, we always tend to, with the family, we always tend to do three gratitudes, or three gratefulness at the end of our, or before our, at the end of our meal. What are we grateful for? And one of the things that about the day, about today, for instance, and one of the things that I've also added into the mix was about adding an act of kindness, because it's so easy to sometimes forget how it is easy to be kind, right? So I would have the kids who would say things like, "Oh, today I held the door for someone." That's not kindness, that manners, right? Um, but if you really think about it, if you start putting this into like a normal routine, you will start thinking, okay, how can I actually be kind? Kindness in leadership, it's something really important. It's not about being the loudest or being the toughest or having all of this authority. Is really about, as I mentioned earlier, listening to other people and trying to understand them, using some empathy. So I think I learned that also in the hard way, because when I was working in corporate, I had a boss who honestly was a tyrant. Honestly, it was really awful. She really undermined me daily with some micro behaviors and some sharp word that actually would just chip away at my confidence every day. I left feeling broken. But there was a colleague of mine from another department, but was on the same floor, who saw what was happening. He could see the difference in me. He could hear all of these things. And every night before I left, he would say something kind to me, something grounding, something to keep me going, basically. And I remember that's really what held me there at the time. And that's what I want to, it's always about paying forward, isn't it? That's what I want to do in my job. That's what I want to be as a person, as a human being. I want to be kind to other people. I want to even if sometimes it's really hard, even if sometimes, you want to retaliate, you just want to say, don't talk to me that way, I don't deserve this. But there is a kind way of saying it rather than getting into this fight, I would say. So it's about really not letting these people think that you are not worth it.
Yeah, it's I love the family thing. It's such a a good thing to start doing with your kids. And I know I used to have a gratitude journal for a bit till things start going a bit wrong, and that's probably when you need
Yeah,
to be doing it a little bit more, isn't it? But
yeah, yeah,
absolutely, it pays nothing for it costs nothing, does it, for kindness? And I think
yeah.
that's what you were saying, and yeah, we all do get caught up in our own little worlds and our own little life so bad sometimes when
Mm, mm,
because we can look around, but yeah,
mm, yeah.
yeah,
I think to touch back on what you just said, Gina, about the gratitude. I think it's sometimes it takes quite an effort to go and write on that gratitude journal, especially as you said, if you had a bad day, a bad month, or whatever that is about trying to pull out uh, that we are still here, that we can still talk to one another, that you still have people who loves you around you, even if sometimes you find it hard to find them. I think it's that's where it's not just about writing it down. It's about trying to acknowledge that, to accept it as well.
yeah. I think because with it writing it down, it starts to become, oh, I've got to do my journal tonight. Oh yeah,
Mm,
I'm grateful
yeah,
for my family. I'm grateful for,
yeah,
and it becomes like it becomes less of a meaningful
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So sometimes, like, just taking a step back and thinking deeper than
mm,
making it an everyday chore, like doing 10 press ups every morning. Um,
yeah, yeah,
what we've got to, and then we've got to be kind to ourselves as well, haven't we? So we
yeah.
don't get
We do.
a
We
break
need to. Yeah,
now yeah, it definitely, we all need a bit more kindness in our lives, uh, without a doubt. But yeah, so you've alluded to it, haven't you? You've got lots of different roles and identities, haven't you? So you're a mother, you're an entrepreneur, you're a speaker, you're about to be an author, and you know, how do you go without trying to just stick in that one identity? How can you?
I, I think it's a balance, isn't it? I guess I it's not all, I don't know, it's I try to blend, basically, right? So some days I'm a mom first, and other days I'm a speaker first, other day I'm a trainer, and sometimes it's all at once. So it's I've learned that I don't need to choose just one identity. I am all of them. I am Leela Bassi. That's who I am, and I have to let go of that pressure to be perfect in any of them. Like even for me doing a podcast with no notes, no nothing, it's something that I would have never even thought about like 2 or 3 years ago. What matters is really about being present and being real. Whether I am at work, whether I am at home, it's about being me, being authentic, I guess. So I think the way that I also, to answer the question, I also go through it is because I'm incredibly lucky to have a very, very supportive husband who would back me up whenever I need it. And that really makes a huge difference to me. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, family is really important, isn't it? And if
Yeah,
you haven't got family, friends who are who replace them, sometimes can be better for people.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, it's interesting. We've all got so many identities, haven't we? And I
yeah,
think we forget that ultimately we're one person, and each one of those identities, a bit like Superman or whatever, makes that one person, don't they?
yeah,
Because you can't separate it completely. Um, Although I think if you do, you're a lot less human and not personable, and
yeah,
people
yeah.
don't connect with you, and that's what we're all about, connection, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So we've got some up and coming projects and goals that I know that you're excited about.
I
So
am.
you're most excited about.
So I've written a book which is called Beyond the Ice. Basically, it's I share in there some stories on resilience, leadership, identity. It's really from the Arctic to the boardroom to my own life journey. It's coming out in July, and I'm really excited to share it with the world because this is a journey that took me, well, it's been in the making really for the last 10 years. But there was always an excuse, wasn't there? Then at the start of the year, I thought, that's it, no more excuses. It's time to get this out. So that is a big deal for me to be able to put this out there. I'm also developing some workshops and some talks that help people explore what resilience looks like in their own lives, okay, and how to build it in a way that feels real and personal. So it's not just a checklist, okay, it's more of having that mindset that they can actually carry forward. So it's really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to be in July and pull this out of the bag.
Yeah. Well, I had the honour to read the book, and for anyone that wants it, I'll work out how to put a link in the bottom once it's live. But it is definitely a different dynamic. I think I've had to read leadership books. I've studied management in the past, and I love the way it's integrated. It's not dull, and the lessons you've learned over the past are gonna resonate with so many people. I'm predicting it's going to be a bestseller, and you heard it first. But yeah, buy the book. It's going to be epic. If you've got, I think any person who's got business leads, or who just wants to get ahead in life, needs to have a read, definitely.
Thank
Um,
you. That means a lot. Thank you, Gina.
Yeah, and then obviously then the workshops are even more exciting because you're gonna have a manual, and then you can have the real Leela
Yeah.
Bassi to guide you. Fantastic. So obviously you're gonna be, you might not think it, but you're gonna be an inspiration to people, and maybe they'll class you. Well, they will class you as a role model. So who who would you say is your superhero or role model, or someone that's inspired you? over your life, not just when you were as a kid?
I think I've never really had just one role model as such. I think at different times in my life, different people have shown up and made a difference to me. Um, for instance, when I was younger, when I first moved to the UK, it was my best friend who helped me to move and take that leap, right? She's still very present in my life now, but I think she played a really big role at the time. In the workplace, there were people who supported me quietly, especially during the times when I faced bullying and harassment and all that. Um, I think even if we think about the Arctic, I was when I was selected for that Arctic expedition, like I said at the beginning, someone else believed in me when I needed it the most, right? So that was a role model for me as well, and I think now I find strength in the people closest to me. So my husband, my children, you, Gina, doing this podcast, being who you are a true inspiration to me. Everything you do all the time. For me, you are my inspiration right now, my role model. So I guess it's not just having just one role model. I think I've been shaped by the kindness, the belief, the strength of different people along the way. But if you ask me to choose one, then right now I would say it's you. And thank you for being who you are as well.
Thank you. You're far too kind, I'm sure. But yeah, you make me push. Yeah, so yeah, I think jumping back in on that, your role models. You might not know they're going to be a role model or an inspiration when you first meet, but then the connection and moving forward and definitely, the Everest team, myself and Leela are going to Everest Base Camp, all for charity, and we've got such a remarkable team of women that they're all going to be, I think, at one point our role models and inspirations, even if it's just to carry on up that hill. Yeah, but it is. There's people. I just think there's people across your life that just touch you in a way that is, and I think as you were saying, you'll remember the bullies, but you'll also remember the ones that were there for you
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
crisis, and
yeah,
hopefully we come across more kindness than those people who are weak and bully people, because
yeah, yeah.
there's no place for it. So
I think they get you also to learn who you truly are, and even if sometimes you have to reflect back and think about what happened to you or what situation you were in, I think it just makes you feel stronger. I wouldn't be here today talking to you about my failures and who I am today if I had not gone through all of that. So in some ways, I think I'm grateful. If I had it all rosy, I might not be the person that I am.
yeah, no, completely agree. I think you need some resistance in life, because if life's
Yeah.
too tough, then you're not going to grow. I mean, I wouldn't wish people to be, bullied and have those experiences, but
Mm,
they're certainly who shaped you and myself, having bad experiences, and that's what makes
mm,
you, I guess, resilient. Um,
yeah.
Fortunately, or fortunately, because we're both sat
Yeah.
here chatting today. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Life is just full of ups and downs, and it brings
Yeah.
us to this moment, which is
Yeah.
good. It's good. It's good. At the minute. Um, yeah. So we could go down that rabbit hole, I'm sure. What do you think that we haven't talked about that we should have talked about?
Um,
We could
I'm not sure really. I think one of the thing maybe that I want our listeners to know is that because of my background culture, I was born in India. I was raised in France. I moved to the UK. I married an Italian. Just to add that to the mix. So that really has given me a great opportunity to do all of my training session and speeches and so on in 3 different languages, which I love it. I had great opportunities to travel the world and to be able to talk to many different people, and that has brought so much knowledge to my bag, I would say, and the experience of others. I am just so grateful for all of that. So yeah, I think it's a great situation to be in. I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah, and you always make me feel so inadequate when you can speak 3 languages.
Yeah, but you can do so many other things that I can't do, and you are just brilliant. You are who you are, and I think it's not about, I'm not showing off here by saying, I speak different languages. Some people speak 15 different languages, but some other people just do big things that I would never be able to do at any time. So it's about the strength that we have. That's what makes us, that's what shapes us. And it's really about who we are as a person. I think that's the most important. So we are all very special in our own way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings you back nicely to the thing about diversity and inclusion and how we
Yeah,
bring our own strengths and weaknesses,
yeah,
and that's yeah, a nice end to the conversation in that respect,
yeah.
isn't it? Brought it full circle.
Yeah.
You're good at this. Yeah. So where can people find you online? And then we know your book's out in July,
Yeah.
so fairly soon. So where would
Yeah.
they want to find that?
So the best will probably be my website, so www.leelabassi.com. I'm also on Instagram, on Facebook, LinkedIn. Particularly, I actually just do not daily, but at least twice a week post on there where I talk about the book, I talk about stories, different stories, insights, upcoming event, and so on. So yeah, so I would say website, LinkedIn, Instagram will probably be the best. I'm sure we can just add them at the end
Yeah, I
in
think
the
we can.
podcast.
When I
Yeah,
work it out, we can put them in the show notes.
yeah,
as,
sure, that'd be
as the
great.
experts
Yeah.
say. Yeah, fantastic. But at least you're not like me with crazy different names everywhere. I will sort that out at some point. Uh, yeah, so the podcast is obviously called Beyond the Barracks, and it's
Yeah,
an absolute honour to have you on as the first civilian
thank
on this
you.
podcast. So I normally ask, what does Beyond the Barracks mean to you? But as you know, you've written a book which is going to be called Beyond the Ice. And your company's called Beyond Resilience, is it? Got that right?
Above
Yeah.
and beyond resilience. Yeah.
So it's really nicely linked, and I didn't even make that correlation till the other day. So what does Beyond the Ice then mean to you?
So for me, beyond the ice is going past what you think you're capable of, right? So it's really about digging deep, right? It's finding that strength that you didn't know that you had. Um, Almost sort of coming back home to yourself, changed, which is exactly what has happened to me when I came back from the Arctic. As I always say, if I can survive in minus 40, sleep on ice, face frostbite on my fingers, have to take on these inner demons, then I can face anything. Beyond the ice is where that transformation lives, really. I am here in my studio, where I've got here on my wall a picture of me and the team, where we were just about to get to the finish line. And I wanted that picture there to remind me that sometimes it's not just about, what you said right at the start. It's not about climbing that summit. It's not about being up there. It's all about that journey. That's what took you there. And that's what Beyond the Ice is about. It's really about going past what you are currently in right now, and tell yourself, I am enough. I can do this. I'm capable of this, no matter what.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's, if you like, it's again direct correlation to, you finished that chapter in your life, and then it drove you to where you are now. And it's the same with guys and girls that are leaving the military. They leave the barracks behind, and then they've got their whole life ahead of them, a completely, like you, completely different career. And that's, as you say, what shapes you. If you can do it on the ice at minus 40, where nothing can be tougher than nature, and those extreme conditions, without doubt. So yeah, it's been a fantastic chat. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, stepping out your comfort zone, and making me the first person to interview on a podcast. A true honour. So thanks a lot. Thanks for being on. Absolutely loved the chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Gina. It was all my pleasure. Thank you for being who you are, and doing all you do for the world, I would say. So it's more my pleasure than anything else. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Take care. And
thank you. Take care. Bye. Bye.